When 95 Harley-Davidsons rolled into Jake Martinez's crumbling garage at dawn, he thought his life was over. The night before, he'd done something no mechanic should ever do. Touched the daughter of a Hells Angels vice president without permission. Her $40,000 custom wheelchair was supposed to be untouchable. But Jake had seen something everyone else missed. Now, as leather-clad bikers surrounded his shop, he'd either performed a miracle or signed his death warrant. 14 hours earlier, Jake had made a decision that would change everything. The rumble started low, then grew into something that shook the windows. 1 Harley, then 5, then 20, then 95. Members of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, converging on his failing Mesa garage like a leather-clad army. Jake's hands trembled. He was 34, had faced danger in Afghanistan, but this was different. This was a brotherhood he'd challenged. A father he'd contradicted. Leading them was Reaper. 6 feet 3 inches of controlled fury, salt and pepper beard, dark aviator sunglasses. To understand what happened, you need to understand Jake Martinez. His garage wasn't just a business, it was a sanctuary, his last purpose. Martinez Auto Repair sat on Mesa's forgotten edge where rent was cheap. The building looked held together by hope and duct tape, but Jake's tools sat in perfect order. He was broke but not broken. He'd learned precision in the Army. 8 years as a vehicle mechanic with the 101st Airborne, deployed twice to Afghanistan. His platoon joked that Jake could hear engine problems before they happened. Mechanics keep soldiers alive, their sergeant said. Every bolt you tighten is someone's kid coming home. Jake took that seriously. That Thursday morning, Jake was barely surviving. Past due rent notices screamed final notice. His limp from an IED had ended his Army career, but his hands were steady, his mind sharp. Above his workbench was a photo. 5 soldiers in desert camouflage. 3 hadn't made it home. The Harley that pulled up was a custom build costing more than most cars. The rider was massive, 6 feet 3 inches, broad-shouldered, wearing a Hells Angels vice president vest. His eyes were hidden behind aviators, but Jake felt their weight. You Jake Martinez? Heard you're the best transmission guy in Mesa. Behind him, a custom van arrived. The side door opened and a wheelchair lift descended. That's when Jake saw her. Sophie was 16, bright hazel eyes, wearing a faded band t-shirt. Her wheelchair looked aerospace designed, sleek titanium, complex joints, LED diagnostics. Equipment costing more than Jake made in 2 years. My daughter, the man said. She needs an oil change on her chair. Bearings been squeaking. Jake hesitated. I work on bikes and cars, not medical equipment. The man stepped closer. You work on anything mechanical. Says so on your sign. We fix what others can't. Sophie stopped outside the garage bay. He's not going to hurt you, she said with a ghost of a smile. Name's Reaper, the man said. This is Sophie. The chair cost $40,000. Built by specialists in California. Top of the line, but it's squeaking. Jake nodded. Bring her in. Sophie rolled forward with a jarring bump that made her wince. Jake saw it. He saw everything. When Jake examined the wheelchair, his world shifted. This wasn't a mobility device. This was a cage. The wheelchair was beautiful, state-of-the-art, expensive, and fundamentally, catastrophically wrong. The weight distribution was backward. 45 pounds of pressure on Sophie's lower back. The wheel alignment was off by degrees that added up to chronic shoulder pain. The joystick sensitivity required so much pressure that Sophie had calluses. The brake system engaged unevenly, snapping her neck forward every time. Jake had seen this before. In a Humvee outside Kandahar. He'd caught a microscopic misalignment everyone else signed off on. 3 days later, that Humvee hit an IED. The proper suspension he'd insisted on saved 4 lives. How long you been using this chair? Jake asked quietly. 2 years. Since the accident. It hurt. Sophie went very still. Yeah. My shoulders, my back. But they said it's the best money can buy, so I figured it's just me. Jake looked up at her. Something in his chest cracked. She'd been in pain for 2 years and thought it was her fault. Money doesn't always mean right, Jake said softly. Behind him, Reaper's voice cut like a blade. Something you want to say, mechanic? Every survival instinct screamed at Jake to shut up. But Sophie was looking at him with desperate, fragile hope. Jake chose Sophie. I can fix the squeak, but if you want, I could fix the real problem. The silence was knife-sharp. Finally, Reaper's jaw tightened. What problem? Jake kept his voice calm, technical. The chair's built wrong. Weights backward, alignments off, stress points torture her body. She's been in pain because the engineering is fundamentally flawed. Reaper went rigid. Cost me $40,000. And you're telling me they're all wrong. I'm saying they don't listen to machines the way a mechanic does. They design what looks impressive. I'm looking at what works. And this doesn't work. Reaper took off his sunglasses. His gray eyes pinned Jake in place. You got some balls, mechanic. You're either the best I've ever met or running the stupidest con in history. I'm telling you what I see. Your daughter's been suffering because nobody wanted to admit the Emperor had no clothes. The chair's wrong. I can fix it. Sophie leaned forward. You really think you can make it better? Jake looked at her. I know I can. After an eternity, Reaper spoke. 24 hours. You rebuild that chair. And if you're playing me, if you hurt my daughter, you'll answer to me and 94 of my brothers. As they left, Sophie looked back. Her eyes were wet. Thank you for seeing me. Jake stood alone, looking at the wheelchair, knowing if he was wrong, 95 Hell's Angels would be coming at dawn. Jake worked through the night. Complete disassembly, systematic reconstruction. He cut away 12 pounds of unnecessary titanium, replaced it with carbon fiber, lengthened the wheelbase 3 inches for proper weight distribution, added micro shock absorbers from his mountain bike, recalibrated the joystick sensitivity, rebuilt the seat with memory foam and medical-grade gel. While examining the seat assembly, Jake's fingers found paper tucked deep inside, a note in young feminine handwriting. Someone please help. It hurts. For words Sophie had hidden where nobody would find them. At 11 p.m., doubt crept in. What if I'm wrong? His ex-wife's words echoed. You always think you know better than everyone else. One day it's going to cost you everything. Jake's phone sat nearby, Reaper's number programmed in. He could call, apologize, say he needed more time. Then his eyes landed on Sophie's note. I've been wrong before, Jake said to the empty garage. But I'm not wrong about this. At dawn, the rumble began. 95 motorcycles filled the street, the parking lot, everywhere Jake looked. Engines cut off and the silence was more intimidating than the noise. Reaper dismounted slowly. Where is it? Jake gestured to the rebuilt wheelchair. I kept my promise. Reaper examined it for 5 minutes. Finally, he looked at Jake. Talk me through it. Jake explained each modification. Some bikers nodded. Others asked technical questions. Reaper absorbed every word, those gray eyes evaluating Jake for lies. When Jake finished, Reaper's eyes were wet. Sophie's in the van. Let's see if you're a genius or a dead man. Sophie settled into the rebuilt wheelchair. Her eyes widened immediately. It's lighter. It's so much lighter. She touched the joystick with her fingertips. The chair responded instantly. Sophie's face transformed. Pure, unbridled joy. She moved forward, testing, then turned, then moved again. She rolled over a crack in the pavement and the shock absorbers absorbed it smoothly. Tears formed, but she was smiling. She circled the parking lot, faster, more confident. The bikers watched in silence, some wiping their own eyes. Sophie stopped in front of Jake, tears streaming, laughing. I forgot what it felt like to not hurt. Reaper walked toward Jake slowly. Then he extended his hand. You saw what million-dollar engineers missed. You saw my daughter when they just saw a case study. The parking lot erupted. Bikers clapping, whistling, shouting approval. Sophie grabbed Jake's hand. Thank you for seeing me. Inside the garage, Reaper's expression shifted to something serious. You did something that matters. But you also disrespected $40 grand worth of work. So here's the deal. He pulled out a folded paper. You're going to fix every broken wheelchair, walker, and mobility device in our community. For free. Jake tensed. His struggling garage could barely keep him fed. There's 127 disabled veterans in Mesa and Chandler, Reaper continued, his voice softening. Brothers who served their country, got hurt, and came home to a system that doesn't give a damn. The VA gives them garbage equipment. These men and women sacrificed everything, and their government thanks them with equipment that barely works. One by one, bikers stepped forward with their stories. Marcus, lost both legs, wheels don't track straight. Tommy, blown hip, walker too short, destroying his back. Marines, Army, Air Force. Each story a weight on Jake's shoulders, but a weight he recognized. These were his people. I don't know if I can help everyone, Jake said quietly. Reaper nodded. Then you tell them the truth. But you try. Jake took his hand. When do we start? Marcus grinned. Brother, we start now. The days blurred together. Jake worked 16-hour days. Marcus's wheelchair, tracking problem from slightly different wheel diameters. When Marcus tested it rolling straight, he cried. Tommy's walker, adjusted height, added cushion grips, reinforced frame. His wife hugged Jake until he couldn't breathe. The bikers brought trucks full of equipment. New tools, materials, professional lighting. They learned from Jake, took notes, helped with simpler jobs. Sophie became Jake's assistant, organizer, advocate. She understood what the veterans were going through, and she gave them hope just by existing. Within 3 months, Jake had helped 47 veterans. The wall displayed their photos, faces smiling in ways their families hadn't seen in years. A local news station did a feature, The Mechanic Who Heals. Sophie's mobility improved beyond what any doctor predicted. She walked with forearm crutches now, custom modified by Jake. She'd been accepted to Arizona State's biomedical engineering program. I want to design equipment that actually helps people. I want to be the engineer who listens. Reaper had softened. He brought coffee every morning, and they'd become genuine friends. One morning Reaper said, For 2 years I blamed myself. I spent $40,000 trying to buy a solution. You showed me I was asking the wrong questions. I was asking how much does it cost, and who has the best credentials. I should have been asking, does it work and does it help my daughter? The brotherhood expanded. HellsAngels chapters across 12 states replicated Jake's model, connecting mechanics with disabled veterans. A VA administrator from Phoenix called. Your methods are saving the government millions. We want to hire you as a consultant. Jake's response was immediate. I don't want government money. I want you to listen to the people using the equipment. He took the consulting position on his terms. He wouldn't stop working in his garage, and he wouldn't charge veterans. One Saturday, Jake worked on an 8-year-old boy's wheelchair. Daniel had cerebral palsy, and insurance denied his new chair. His mother sat nervously watching, twisting her hands. Insurance said the old one was adequate, but it's not. It hurts him. I feel like I'm failing him every day. Sophie took her hand. Not anymore. When Jake finished the modifications and Daniel tested the chair, his laugh was pure joy. His mother collapsed forward, hugging her son, crying. After they left, Jake sat with Sophie and Reaper, watching the sunset through the garage door. Do you ever think about that first day? Sophie asked. When you decided to tell my dad the truth? Jake smiled. Every day. Still can't believe I didn't get killed. Reaper chuckled. You know why you didn't? Because you saw my daughter as a person, not a problem. That's not mechanical skill. That's character. Jake looked around his garage. The wall of 47 photos. The tools ready for the next person needing help. The brothers working together in the background. I spent years thinking I was broken too, Jake thought. Failed marriage, failing business, limping through life. But I learned something. We're all broken in some way. The question isn't whether we're damaged. It's whether we're willing to help each other heal. The best repairs aren't about making something perfect. They're about making something work. Making something human again. The sunset deepened. Jake stood slowly, his bad leg protesting. Sophie stood beside him on her crutches. Reaper placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. The three of them stood silhouetted in the doorway, looking out at a world that had tried to break all of them and failed. Epilogue. Jake has now helped over 200 disabled veterans. Hell's Angels chapters across America have adopted his model in 12 states. Sophie starts biomedical engineering school next fall. Marcus, Tommy, and 43 other veterans Jake helped now volunteer at mobility clinics nationwide. The VA implemented new equipment evaluation protocols based on Jake's recommendations. And Jake Martinez still drives his beat-up truck, still works in his humble garage, and still believes that the best way to fix what's broken is to actually listen to the people who hurt.